Welcome to a true spiritual adventure story like the world has never known with your host, Dr. James Yogati Weldon. Good day. This is Jim Weldon speaking from Heavenly Mountain in Boone, North Carolina. Our community, which is dedicated to helping us bridge the gaps in our understanding between the different traditions of the world. And a center where we are open to advancing our consciousness and learning to live in the love of the divine. This is part of my ongoing series, started many years ago. Surprising to me, the story behind the greatest story ever told. And this began quite spontaneously, really with no attempt on my own. Many years back, in a very high state of consciousness known as Turiya, I began to see the event like walking through a 3D movie of the life of Jesus. There is a place where such things can be known, but the question is there any accuracy to them? And one easy way to understand that is to just look at the medium before you. This device here, which we really don't understand how it works in front of me, allows me to speak literally to millions, even billions of people. It enables me to be able to see at a distance, hear at a distance, look at any book almost on the planet. And in the scheme of things, even though this world seems immense, you have to admit, if you look up into the sky at night, that this world of ours is really a speck of dust in comparison to the great vast universe beyond us, which we now suspect has been in existence over 13 billion years. And so from time to time, great beings do come into this world. They're here now. And they come for a purpose and a reason. We do too. And our life is much longer and deeper than we could ever imagine. This is what Jesus was talking about. The divine existence, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And we are all children of this divine force. And we come into this world for our growth. If you have anything that you could possibly imagine, there were no challenges at all, what kind of life would that be? It would be extremely boring. Actually, we would probably become very, very depressed over time because the fulfillment that we are seeking is within us. You see, our ability to sense, our ability to hear, smell, taste, and touch is limited, inherently limited. Whatever you like in this world, if you have an endless supply of it, it would never be enough. I like cherry pie, but how many pies can I eat? And after a while, those same pies that I love will make me sick. So the senses themselves are inherently limited. But what are we seeking? We're seeking a joy and fulfillment which is unlimited, that divine existence, which is our very being. And the core of Jesus' teaching was a simple explanation of that. Now we know of the 2.5 years or so he spent in what is known as Israel today, and it's written about in the Bible, and that was recorded and written down a number of years after he passed. What happened before? He didn't just disappear at 13 years old and reappear 30 years later. He had an entire education in the 3 wise men that came to see him as a child, because of their intuition that he needed to go to that part of the world to be trained. My first experience was beginning to share those stories. And so that first novel, The Story Behind the Greatest Story Ever Told, has been completed. It's online, it's in my apps, it's in videos, it's in podcasts globally. You should listen to that because that'll help you get a sense of what's happened up to this point. My past novels, true spiritual adventure novels. The first one, How to Live the Enlightened Life. And the second one about my time with the greatest spiritual teacher, I believe, on the planet now. He's doing huge works around the world. I was involved in prison projects all over the place with him. You should look at that because those were created, even though I didn't realize it at that time, in order to provide a foundation that people could verify if this is accurate and true. So in this episode, and he's now back in his homeland. He's now gathered his disciples around him. A lot of things have happened. Healings have happened. I talked about how those were possible in some of these earlier episodes. Mary Magdalene, really the most advanced spiritually of his first disciples, how he fell in love. She fell in love with him at the very moment that they first met. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of his other disciples, and then an upcoming shock, really, to that very small community, and that is the imprisonment of John the Baptist. So what kind of people were attracted to Jesus at that time? He was unknown, but there was a certain very, very powerful magnetism about him that engendered love. And I know that very directly because I've been around great beings like that. But what kind of people came to him? Well, there was really three basic categories of individuals. First were those that were suffering. And there were many, many people that were suffering. The conditions were very poor for people living a full life. So no medicine, no health care, even a small cut could be disastrous. And any individual could really be taken out of their house and executed on the spot by any Roman soldier at any time with probably no repercussions. So it was a very dangerous situation. And the Jewish community was trying to hold on to the traditions and do the best they could in a very difficult situation. So Jesus stepped into the middle of that just to give them food and give them a little consolation, and to allow them to be in the presence of this great being was enormous, and the effects were significant. And people were attracted to that. Spiritual attractiveness of Jesus was immense. And this is because truly the Father, Mother, divine consciousness had come in. He was a man like any man, with all the desires and needs and some of the misunderstandings and confusions of any man. But he was trained to rise above those for many years. And so individuals that were seeking solace, and then as he began to be seen gradually as an individual of power and influence, individuals came for something. In the East, that is well known. Spiritual teachers over there for ages, for many thousands of years, have been a source of great blessings, because that culture understands that the blessings of such a being are quite real. And one of the capabilities that comes in those advanced states, in those master states of awareness, is that one's words begin to have the ability to making themselves fruitful. And where I'm living now in North Carolina, in this huge community that we have, is a perfect example of that. It's the largest multicultural, multi-faith community facility in the hemisphere. It has come in a very, very surprising way. That's another story. But when we bring our problems and difficulties to such high consciousness through prayer, through meditative states, and if possible, I would not deny anybody ever the chance to be in the presence of such high, unbelievably great awareness. And they are here. There are some in this world right now. So if they say, don't worry, it's going to be okay, I'm telling you, you can bet on it. It really happens. And so those blessings are real. Now, of course, I've over the years been a natural health doctor, and I've taught doctors and nurses at hospitals and universities about healing. Once that is recognized in a community, there'll be an unending stream of individuals, because such a being is here to give. He's not taking anything. If he takes something, it's our stress and the heavy weight upon us. So in nature, the principle, as you sow, so shall you reap, is the principle of karma. In the East, in the physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And the universe, through its cosmic laws, puts us through trials and tribulations for our growth, but also makes us go through some very, very difficult things, or can, if we've done more extreme acts in the past, and I'm telling you, we all have, including me. But the past is a lesser developed and evolved state. And when we're lesser developed, we make more mistakes. So that was the second reason that people came. And then there was the third higher reason, people that come with limited suffering, or perhaps they don't really care. They can accept what they're going through, but they just want to serve. And this is the highest kind of devotee in love. They want nothing, just to be in that place and to be a part of the work that's being done. That is the highest type of service or devotion. But gradually growing into that light to live it and really feel oneself is absolutely connected to everybody. That's a goal. It's a very high and real goal. There are stages and steps to that. And it's a very deep, profound knowledge and needs proper instruction. This has meant a lot of the stuff that he learned in India, but he didn't teach it when he came back to his home. It was a while even before he began to share about prayer much, but the highest teaching he could not give. Those practices that he really did learn from the masters in the East, he didn't teach those. Just imagine if he'd have brought in some advanced meditation technique, some breathing technique, the ability to open these doorways of love and bliss, he would have been opposed much more strongly. Just being there, unfortunately, was a threat. He didn't come to create peace in the sense of making everybody peaceful. He came really to do one of the major things that all the masters do, and that is to take on and accept the weight of sin. So the essence of what is talked about in Christianity, that Jesus came in for that, is absolutely true. And so he did. Now, John the Baptist, he was a thorn in the side of the leaders. He was always saying, get your life straight, live a holy life, be honest. But that created the ire specifically of the wife of one of the leaders there. There was a divorce which was not accepted in that culture, and he criticized her. And so she began to speak into the ear of her husband, and so he used his power to imprison him. And that was a big shock to the community. Actually, John the Baptist had a much bigger following than Jesus. When he was imprisoned, he too, being a high being, he knew that his time was coming. And really, Jesus sensed that as well. But they really had very little power and influence over the leaders. Accepting what was coming was one of the big lessons. Just like in our body, there are billions of individual cells. Each one has its own life. They come and they go. They live and they die. They are reincarnated back in the body. The energy is, at least, and begin again to do their work. And so that coming and that going, for him, he could accept, because now he knew that the light that he had envisioned coming into that part of the world out of great love for everyone was now here in a real practical sense. His work was completed. He was now imprisoned. Some other individuals in his community had also been arrested, of course, as Jesus was traveling around. So he was certainly an example of one of these high spiritual beings that come into the world from time to time. And you might wonder, do they return? They certainly do. And is it possible to know who they are? It is possible. Today, if Jesus or John the Baptist or other high beings were to come back in this world, they wouldn't be recognized. And probably if they proclaimed and said, oh, I have this memory of being ... They could even be imprisoned. They might be in the psychiatric ward somewhere. True spirituality doesn't make you crazy at all, but it does create a tremendous source of love within you that flows literally like water in a stream through your body. This is also what we're trying to create here in Boone, a very peaceful, loving place for that kind of energy. It is happening quite rapidly, and the organization is huge now. At last estimate, the benefit of their activities have directly influenced the life of, surprising, about 450 million people. Check it out. So again, this is Dr. Jim Weldon speaking to you from Heavenly Mountain, Boone, North Carolina. A very special place, the oldest mountain range in the world. Very ancient locality. In the next episode, we'll see what appears. But I wanted to talk to everybody this time about the kinds of people that came to him. The same is true today. It really is. We've advanced in a lot of ways in this world, but in terms of understanding about what is really going in this life, we have a lot to learn. We all have a lot to learn. Anybody that comes to you and says that they have all the answers, just turn and say, look upwards. Cover a spot by your finger in the sky. Can you imagine how many thousands of galaxies are covered by that one little finger space above you? Thank you. Come again, invite your friends to hear more about the greatest story, the greatest spiritual adventure story ever lived, about the divinity that we are.